Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, classic, less known classics. This is episode number 2375 and episode number 79. Yeah, 79. 69, excuse me. Mostly put just two books done by where the creators are two of the best artists in the industry. First we have is Strange, the Doctor is Out, which collects the second volume of Strange. Which I think is like 6 issues, I believe it is. It was 4 issues, yeah, 4 issues. Yeah. Written by Mark Waid, art by Emma Rose. I think this book was released, I think it was in 2009, I think it was, yes. Where this was the first miniseries released since the previous one, Strange Beginnings and Endings. And after this miniseries came out, there was nothing much solo-wise Doctor Strange released, with the exception of New Avengers Annual release, I think it was in 2014, I think it was, by Jonathan Hickman, which I kind of wish that would led to an ongoing series at that point, but it didn't. We didn't go into the following year, but yeah, after this, we didn't see anything ongoing, any other series per se, with Doctor Strange as a starring character until 2015. Not sure why. It's like, okay, we have a popular character like Doctor Strange, and yeah, this is set during a period of time where he is not the Source Supreme. Dr. Voodoo is. Yep, and the thing is, by the way, this is by far the first and probably only Doctor Strange book he does not wear a signature attire. Nope. Mostly put, he starts out with a baseball game with a young woman who's there. Who's this woman right here. Yeah. This blue hair girl who in this miniseries becomes Doctor Strange's apprentice. After a brief recap of Doctor Strange's backstory. And I believe her name is Casey. She's a girl with glasses. Yeah, and get this. She is the granddaughter of the owner of the baseball team. Yep. And when they mention her last name, it's like, wait, are you related to this guy? He's like, yeah, he's my grandfather. Yeah, and it turns out this whole baseball game was in fact, get this, it was basically illusion for demons basically playing baseball. Yep. Yeah, and that leads to stuff basically involving her casting a spell Doctor Strange had not been using for 5 years. And apparently she broke a treaty, it's not really going into it. Then eventually her grandfather dies, and then her cousins move in. And she's like, why are you moving in for? This is my house. It's legally mine. And you two never get a damn about the grandfather anyways. It's like, nah, the will is a mess. This is declared family asset. And she is not allowed there at all, because they have no business being there. So she uses the magic she has to teleport the movie van away. And the cousins are never sitting in this miniseries, because after this, they don't show up after this. So, and of course, at one point you have Katie selling her soul to solve a situation. Like one point, like you also have her into a younger girl. It's more about her than Doctor Strange himself, who's in this book. Yeah, first he's wearing regular clothes and he wears a suit the whole book. But not his signature attire. At one point, he does go back to the same turn, which he had abandoned and turned into a vacant lot. Yes, this is actually a loose tie into what I think was going on in the pages of Bendis' New Avengers at that point. But all in all, this was a great miniseries. Nothing terrible about it. Excuse me, I'm going to give the book roughly I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. And with that, basically, I reviewed pretty much almost all the minis, everything related to Doctor Strange as of right now, except for one thing. The only thing that's out right now I have not had a chance to review yet is the Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise miniseries, which came out, I think it was about a couple years ago, a year or two ago, I think it was. That's the only thing I have to review for Doctor Strange, aside from the first new trade for the current book. Alright, next up it is New Gods by Jack Kirby. which collects his entire 11-issue run for the book. And here's a fun fact. Um, like the case with Mr. Miracle, where that continued even after he left, though it took 3 years afterwards. This book basically didn't last as long as Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle managed to last for... Actually, I think that was about 7 issues. This was basically the same thing when it was brought back by Joe Conway, which I'll get to at a later point. Mostly put in these 11 issues, we get introduced to a lot of characters. It's like the Apocalypse side, that flip coin was introduced on Mr. Miracle. This is the other flip coin. This series, in the very first issue, we're introduced to Highfather, New Genesis, Light Ray, Orion himself, who's practically the start of this book. A Bug, Mantis, Black Racer introduced in this book. There's a lot of new gods introduced in just these 11 issues. And unlike last say Mr. Miracle and basically a good happy note, this one left up a cliffhanger. Yep. And of course, all about warring with Dark, like going to Apocalypse to fight Calabac. And of course, it's found by issue 11 that Calabac is actually, Calabac makes his debut in the series. Where he's actually Orion's brother, because Orion is actually a son of Darkseid. Yeah. Now, Theo Furious, they made a debut in the page of Mr. Miracle. But then, of course, basically the book ended, but we had a cliffhanger, but then then for some reason in the 80s, they revived New Gods, so they technically already had New Gods book published already. New numbering, lasted for 7 issues, but issue 6 had a Becca feature called Hunger Dogs, where that served as the conclusion to this book, but there's one more thing they published in here, 7 issues. They also had a DC graphic novel published in here, which that was done by Jack Kirby, but it's done with different art style. Yeah, that was his third era with DC. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in case you're curious about New Gods Volume 2, it is, with the exception of the backup story issue 6, is mostly a reprint series. That's most of what it is. And basically the way this is, I heard the word, it is battle. I hear you, Ryan. The battle begins. Yeah, the way the main story ends was basically Orion defeating Calabac, and that apparently ended the war between Apocalypse and New Genesis. This book is just absolutely amazing. Like, if you're a fan of the Jack Kirby New Gods stuff, you gotta check this book out. And you probably think, okay, since you talk about New Gods, like, what else left to go for Jack Kirby's New Gods, the Fourth World Saga? Well, there is still technically one book left. The Forever People. Yep, I'll discuss it later. And throughout this book, he's like freeing people from Apocalypse, which he's worked with these people the whole book. I believe also there's this book where Dan Turpin makes his debut, because he pops up in this book too. Actually, no, he made his debut in a different book, but yeah, I thought it was quite interesting the fact that Dan Turpin wrote this book. Now, Dan Turpin made his first appearance in Detective Comics 64. Now, let's see if I can find his first appearance in here. Yeah, he made his debut as part of the Boy Commandos, and this is basically his return. Like, right after the Boy Commandos, like, you see him as an adult in New Gods number 5, which I thought that was really cool. The fact he made a guest appearance in this very book. Mm-hmm. And if you're really curious, aside from that one issue, is there any appearance he makes in this book as the new part of the New Gods? Well, he appeared in issues 5, 8, and 9, and appeared in, a few issues of, New Gods Line 2, which basically was the reprints book. Yeah, that's the thing with New Gods Volume 2. It was, like I said, it was a reprint book. There is a volume 3, however, and that was basically a slightly longer ongoing series. That was 28 issues. Where writers are Paris Collins, Mark Everett, Bob Evans. Basically, yeah. And like the first volume, Orion is the star of the book. Mm-hmm. And I believe also I think it was in the DC graphic novel, I think I was introduced to Orion's wife, Becca. Yes, that was basically her debut. Yeah, I think you could think of her as the best way to describe her is that she is technically one of Jack Kirby's last major creations he did for DC. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, throughout this book, like I mentioned, issue 1 had a debut of like a lot of characters, like Orion, like I mentioned, Orion, Light Ray, Highfather, Metron. Yes, Metron made his first appearance in the book. Also, Claudia Sloan, Dave Lincoln, Harvey Lockman, Victor Lucia, Calabac, the Parademons, Calvary, the Source. Yes, a lot of stuff associated with New Gods, basically in the book. Now, Claudia Sloan, after this book basically concluded, she would actually return occasionally after this. Excuse me. And it was also, what was suggested in the book is that she had a thing for Orion. Orion had this thing also, he kept changing his face thanks to the mother box. Yeah. Now, issue 2, we have debut of Deep Six. In issue 3, it's a Black Racer. In issue 4, Asek. Let's see, I think that was it. Yeah, I'm thinking that's like the only character introduced there, because New Gods, like, well, there's also Promethean Giants made his debut in issue number 6. 5 actually. Excuse me, issue 6. We have more members Deep Six introduced, where they all a lot of them get killed off. In issue 7, we hear the first appearance chronologically of Highfather, Metron, Orion, scot-free. Also, this is something that this book basically does something that other books ignore about Metron. You see him out of his Metron chair. Yeah, he's not in it. Yeah, there's actually what in this book, he is not walking it. Also, issue 7 is debut of Steppenwolf and Hegra. Steppenwolf, you don't know who the heck this guy is. Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. Yep. Hegra is not exactly well known of character. Basically, she's Darkseid's mom. Yep. We also have first appearance of a character named Tigra. Tigra, who is the mother of Orion. Yeah, and here she's speaking as a wild woman, which it's mentioned in the book that apparently Darkseid's marriage to her was actually not something he wanted. He wanted basically the woman who became Calibac's mom. He wanted her to be his wife, not Tigra. This was done by his mother, who he basically argued frequently, fought many times with her. Issue 8 is noteworthy for being the first comic not introduced any new characters. Issue 9, we have debut of the Bug, otherwise known as the Forager. Yes, and also a woman named Eve Donner, who just appeared in one issue of this book, and then she particularly more in Volume 3. Basically, she was a character to be explored in another book. In issue number 10, now you might be curious though, like, by the last book Jack Kirby does. Like, the second Calabac was to kill up, but don't worry, they'll come back, no problem. But this book is just, like I mentioned, absolutely amazing. Bakudo, like I mentioned, was the last New God introduced by Jack Kirby, because I think it was like 2 or 3 others not created by him. But yeah, the best way to basically get the full grasp people who know about New Gods is to read this book and Mr. Miracle, because the very people that all their stuff is all their own book, but you can think about this book and Mr. Miracle as like two sides to the same coin. Excuse me. You think of like this book introducing mostly all New Genesis stuff, and Mr. Miracle introducing all the Apocalypse stuff, with the exception of a few stuff here and there. And for the Fourth World stuff, I have covered with this book just about everything. I've covered Mr. Superman Spelling Jim Nelson, Mr. Miracle, this book, and I think that's it. Yep. So, got one book left to go, and that'll be for people, and that'll be it for the Fourth World Saga by Kirby. There'll be a Fourth World stuff to cover, don't worry about that, but yeah. I'm going to give New Gods by Jack Kirby a 10 out of 10. It's that good. It was such an enjoyable read. This is the one who Caliban gets arrested by local police officers, and then he's freed. Yes, Caliban, an alien. Also, he's nowhere for being very weird. Also, if you're really curious though, the name of his mother, Sally. Yeah, they actually don't have her show up later. But yeah, we'll get more stuff later on when it comes to, let's just say, yeah, more stuff related to the Jack Kirby stuff. Well, that's pretty much it, particular view. Next up is going to be Comic Corner, not Comic Corner, basically Case Closed, and one more Comic Corner, and I'll head back to Comrade Black to cap it off for my break. Okay? Next video. Bye.